This week on the Baseline Podcast, we talk about, well, how my statement of the Reds sucking and missing the playoffs becomes true. We also talk about how Ohio State is starting to slowly change how they play and how I think the Rutgers game is going to be a lot closer than people expect. Then we finish up by talking about how good the Browns defense is and how they are going to beat the Vikings this week and the keys to victory and so much more coming up on the Baseline Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast, where we try to talk about a lot of sports. We like to cover all the angles, talk about every stat we can think of. And yes, I am proud to be a Browns fan, and my name is Ben, and I can't wait to get started. So we have a lot to talk about. We have a lot to talk about here on the Baseline Podcast, episode 10, by the way. Wow. I even took a couple weeks off, so we've been doing this for a while now. I don't know why that just hit my head, but I've been loving it. I hope you've been loving it. I know that I said last week that there would be my other podcast to be up and going. I'm gonna be really honest. I've kind of hit the, I don't know, say writer's block. I think with that, I'm trying to reinvent it, kind of trying to figure out what can we do that's better. If you have any ideas, let me know in the comments or just text me or whatever. I would love to talk to you about it because, I want it to be good. So that's the only thing I'll talk about. Real Talk with Ben. We're going to get back here on to sports. So I thought I would talk about like the worst thing to talk about, at least from my side of sports. And that is, well, the Reds absolutely suck. As I have said the last month, if you would have told me a month ago the Reds would miss the playoffs, I might have believed you, but I was leaning more towards like, they're going to make the playoffs. But it just goes to show, if you don't have hitting and if your pitching starts being bad again and you don't beat teams you should beat, you're going to lose. I mean, the reason I'm saying this is because they did get eliminated from the playoffs, if you didn't know. And they had a chance. It was like, I think back in the end of August or something like that, they had it was like 50 something % chance to make the playoffs. And then they just went on a long skid. So yeah, I don't really know where to start with the Reds. I really want to just void the Reds. No, I don't mean that. It's just frustrating because like they make the playoffs last year. They obviously lose in the first game, but it's like you thought they'd be so good. I was really worried early on in the year. And then now I watch them and, I watched them throughout the year and I'm like, they can hit, just can't pitch. Then their pitching came along, their hitting started going down again, and then both started going down. And so I think, consistency is what they can do better at. That's kind of like the question I said, what can the Reds do better? How can they be a better team, a better offense, better defense, whatever. I think it's just consistency. Like if you're getting paid millions of dollars to play baseball, you should try to be as consistent as you can be. I think we saw Joey Votto resurgence. I hope that sticks on. I have no idea. He's 37. Castellanos I'll talk about him in a little bit. Winker, will he ever stay healthy? I mean, this is why I tell people, if Winker stays healthy, Moustakas is Moustakas. Suarez actually hits the ball at a good pace. If you have all I'm not trying to make excuses, but if you have all the people that were injured, the players that were injured that end up not being injured, I think this team could have made a real big run. If they had just decent pitching, I think this team could have won 95 games. I really do. But they didn't have it. And it's no one else's fault but theirs. And now you start the offseason, you kind of look and recharge. And that's kind of like why I'm not really going to talk about the playoffs yet, my predictions yet. I was going to, but there's still a few games left. So I think I'll do that next week. It's just kind of give you my predictions for the playoffs. But what can the Reds do right now? What are their top? I basically said the top 3 offseason moves, right? And there's 3 of them they can make. 2 of them are in-house. And I think one of them is out of house. And I think not necessarily re-sign Wade Miley, but just take his team option. I mean, yes, the guy is 34 years old, but he literally was the most consistent pitcher all year. He was Wade Miley. Like you look at the guy, you watch him pitch, you're going, how does this guy, be the best pitcher on the team? It's very easy. I think he just threw strikes. And, Miley was good. Nothing wrong with him. But I think you have to get Wade Miley back on the team. Leadership, Castillo was inconsistent. I think that's a big one. But I think the biggest one, this is not really in any order. I think convincing Castellanos to stay and not opt out. I don't know how realistic that is. I think if he would have had a year where he hit 280, had 22 home runs, 23 home runs, drove in 80 RBIs, I think he stays. I really do. But the season's not over yet. The man's hit 35 home runs. He's driven in like 95 RBIs. He's hitting 309, ton of doubles. If he would have stayed healthy, I think his numbers would have even been bigger. I mean, he could probably hit 40 home runs and 100 RBIs. I have a very hard time believing that he's going to opt back in for another year and then maybe opt out after that year. The worst thing I think they did was they didn't convince themselves they should have signed him to they had like a 1-year guarantee and then 3 straight years of opt-outs. And I don't know. I always don't like those contracts because then it just puts you in a bind. And I think that's where the Reds are. They're in a bind. I don't see, my gut tells me he doesn't stay. He opts out. He ends up going somewhere for big money or whatever. And I think with that, then you have to figure out who's going to be your outfielders. I mean, Winker, yes, but he wasn't even healthy the last like 2 months of the year. I mean, he had a good year, but getting hurt. Is Senzel an option out in the outfield? Akiyama has been atrocious since he signed from Japan. Do they go with Aquino? He can't really hit, really. I mean, they just need to figure out that outfield if Castellanos doesn't stay. I think you're going to see some young guys come up, and they tried Barrero out there. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. Obviously, Joey Votto is going to be back for another year. You're going to have India, who, by the way, I don't care how the Reds finish. He's rookie of the year. I mean, technically the Reds, I think, had 2 guys that could have been rookie of the year. Tyler Stevenson as a catcher. He won't get the look because he only played basically half the year because he platooned. But that's another thing. I don't think Barnhart's back. I love Trevor Barnhart. He's one of the best defensive, catchers in the league. But Stevenson's just good. He's a young guy. Hate to see Barnhart go, but again, like I said, they have 2 dudes, in Stevenson and India. You have Suarez. Maybe he can get back on track next year. They find a shortstop. I think that's the big thing. Is if you can't convince Castellanos to stay, you need to find a shortstop that can hit, that can field. Farmers was good, but I think you can do better. Then you need to figure out your outfield situation. And then I think you have a team that can compete at a high level. But again, we'll have to wait and see. And then probably I guess this could be the biggest one, is just finding true pitching help. I mean, the guys they signed this year did pretty much nothing. I mean, they brought in Wilson and I forget the guy's name, and then Givens. They did pretty well. Lorenzen looked sort of good. The bullpen just needs to rework. They need to figure out what they're doing there. Starting pitching, Gray, Castillo, Miley. I mean, that could be your line, and Miley could be your top 4. He's going to be the 5th. Hunter Green, maybe? Or do you move Hunter Green to the bullpen? I'm just interested to see what happens with this Reds team. It's disappointing they missed the playoffs, obviously, but it's one of those things where I'm kind of like, maybe that's for the best. I mean, rather than get humiliated at the Dodgers, which I think would have happened. I think that's where you'll see maybe some different things happening this offseason. So that is my Reds sad recap. Hopefully they'll be better next year. But we're going to go from the baseball dime. We're going to go on over to the gridiron. We're going to be talking about college football, talking about Ohio State, and reviewing kind of their game versus Akron, and then also talking about Ohio State versus Rutgers. Will this be a better game than usual? You'll have to find out coming next. Now it's time to talk about some Ohio State, or Buckeye football, as I like to call it. I'm super excited for this game this week, and we're back to Big Ten play. But before we get to that game, let's recap the Akron game. It was a very late night for me over here in Hungary. It kicked off at 1:30 in the morning. So yeah, I went to bed at about, 5 maybe. I probably finally fell asleep around 4:30 and then obviously had to wake up for church. So that was, for an Akron game that was a blowout. I'm kind of like, well, maybe I shouldn't have, but I'm a Buckeye fan to the heart. We'll do that every time. And my wife knows that. But yeah, Ohio State versus Akron. It was a good game. I got to see some really interesting things. Some things that actually I think shows some things. One, I think we have two. There's three things I really saw that stuck out. I think we have two really good backup quarterbacks. Um, according to Ryan Day, Stroud's going to go out there this week, which I'm pumped about seeing back out there. But I know that you have McCord and you have Miller right behind him, and then we haven't even started seeing Ewers yet. So they're loaded in the quarterback room. Obviously, I think one's going to transfer at some point. We'll see who that is. I have a funny feeling it could be Miller. Or it could be McCord. Who knows? But we have good backup quarterbacks. And I will say the biggest thing I saw, it's almost like reassuring from the previous week, is that Ohio State has their running back. Like, Travion Henderson is just a different human being. I mean, the dude's like 18 years old and he's doing this. I mean, he looks like, I'm a Browns fan, he looks like Kareem Hunt out there. I mean, honestly, or Nick Chubb. Like, you just give him the ball and he's going to go do something with it. He had 9 carries for like 96 yards. And you'd be like, that's not a lot. But I'm like, dude, the guy averaged like almost 10 yards a carry. Like over 10 yards a carry. Yeah. Like it's ridiculous. He's going to have a great year. And I'll get to what I think they should be doing with him more in a little bit. But I think they found the running back. They found the receiver. I was disappointed that Olave didn't get any touches. Really, I mean, he got a touchdown, but he had 2 touches. I don't really understand like what's going on, what's missing. I mean, maybe it's good coverage. I haven't really paid attention too much to that, but it's just weird, to see a guy of that caliber and not. And I think part of it is the young QBs. But dude, you have a first round pick. I mean, you have 2 in Wilson as well. Wilson's having a good year. But if you can start getting Olave, that separates, defenses. That makes them worried about that deep ball, which Olave is really good at running. So I just saw the team struggle a little bit in certain areas. I think not really. I mean, they won 59-7, 56-7, something like that. Some blowout number I can't even remember off the top of my head. But yeah, I just think the defense still a little bit worries me. That's the third thing kind of noticed was it just struggles a little bit here and there. Like that first drive, I'm like going, oh no. But I mean, we got some more pressure, not a ton, but we got good pressure. You saw the crazy pick by who was that by? Oh, now I forget. They call him Rocket. Anyways, he had a great pick. And Ronnie Hamilton, Ronnie Hickman. There we go. Ronnie Hickman had a great pick. Took that ball basically off the dude's body and took it back to the house. We had some other really good plays defensively. It's coming along, but I still don't think it's there. I still think you got a little ways to go before this defense is good, especially with Big Ten play. I'm interested to see how it goes. But yeah, that's what I saw from the Akron game. It was a blowout, like it should have been, could have been more, I think. But we got to see a lot of guys. I got to see backups play, which is crucial. And this time, Ibuka had an 85-yard catch. So it's cool to see the young guys. You hope to see them more later on in the year. What else? Well, yeah, I mean that's pretty much all I saw. I think moving on to the Ohio State Rutgers game this week. And normally when I say Ohio State Rutgers, everyone will be like, yeah, this is going to be a 40-point win, 50-point win. I want to be honest. I think it could be within 20. It could be within 15. Rutgers is not the same Rutgers. I think Schiano has them where they need to be. I don't think they're, obviously better than Ohio State. I just think they have better talent now. They are more competitive. They want to win. They have nothing to lose, so they're going to go out there with everything that they got. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be a lot better game. It's going to be fun to watch. And my keys to victory, I have 5 keys to victory that I wrote down. One of them is just slowing down Rutgers. I looked at their stats, and Pacheco and Vedral, their quarterback, they both run the ball really decently. I mean, Vedral's got, obviously with sacks that also plays in there as well, but Pacheco's averaging 4 yards a carry. They have another guy that comes in every once in a while, and he averages 6 yards a carry. So they have the running game. I'm not worried about it. I think the Ohio State's run defense is pretty good. But the passing, we'll see what happens. Beau Melton is a guy that I'm sort of worried about. He's got 2 touchdowns, 253 yards on the year, 24 catches. Vedral's not he's not a great quarterback, but he can get the job done. And so he's a big dude too, I believe. So I think it's going to be a interesting game in that sense. But if you slow down Rutgers, I think make them beat you. And if you could do that, I think it's going to be a win for Ohio State. My second key to victory, I think it's pretty simple, but my second key to victory is allowing Henderson to carry the ball more than 20 times. For some reason, Ryan Day tends to now, even last week and the week before, it's like you see that Henderson's your guy, right? And then last week he only carries it 9 times. I get it. It was against a bad team, but he needs to touch the ball. He needs to be the primary back, touch the ball 20, 25 times. Let Mayan Williams and those guys come in every once in a while, but Trayvon Henderson is a beast. And I think also getting him 2 or 3 passes, like screens, getting him out in the field and just running. I mean, we saw what he did in the first week. He's going to do that every week if you give him the chance. So I think allowing Henderson to carry the ball 20 times or more. I think using the run to set up the pass, I don't think they've done enough of that. They did a lot with Fields last year. I know Stroud's not the runner, nor is McCord. But I think you have to have that threat of the quarterback running, but also just play action. We see the Browns do that a lot in the NFL, and it works. So I think if you find a way to just really just throw the ball, but using the run to set it up, I think that's going to be a success. My next fourth kind of key to victory is getting Chris Olave at least 10 touches. I mean, this guy has not shown up since the second game of the year, first game of the year, both games actually. And the last 2 games has not shown up. I think getting him the ball, it creates nightmares for defense coordinators. I think it's going to be a heck of a game for him because I think he's like, I need that too. I want the ball. Yeah. And I think the 5th and final one is just show up. You're Ohio State. You should win this game. But don't think you're just going to win it. You have to show up and play the game. And I think that will happen. And I think the final score will be about 38-20. I think Ohio State, it'll be close at the beginning. I think Ohio State will just run away with it. I think you're going to start seeing them run the ball a lot more this week for sure. And then we have my game of the week for college football, and that is Arkansas versus Georgia. And my question is, can Arkansas solve Georgia's defense? As we know, Georgia's defense is probably the best in the country. The best in the country. It's probably not even close. And I am going to shock a lot of people with this right now, but I think Arkansas is going to pull a late victory. I think it's going to be about 24-21. I think it's going to be somewhere in that region. There's just something about Arkansas this year. I don't know what. I'm becoming an Arkansas believer. I don't know why. But I like seeing these kind of teams in the SEC that are just not really a good team, and they're going to come in and just start winning. So I think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see an Arkansas win. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. Let me know your comments about the Ohio State game down below. Let me know your comments about the Arkansas-Georgia game or any other college football comments. I'd love to hear it. Love to hear your thoughts on Heisman races, all that. I'll be giving my playoff teams or like rankings next week. And as well as I'll be giving my Heisman hopefuls for next week as well. So that'll be in college football next week. But that's where we're going to finish college football this week. We are now going to bounce into the professional world where, I'm wearing this jersey for a reason. We're going to talk about the red hot Browns and the Browns defense that, they're going to do some damage this year. And especially I think this week as well. So we're going to talk about the Browns right now. And we're back to talk about a little Browns football, a little NFL football, but we're going to talk about the Browns and I'm wearing this jersey for a reason. Not just because the Browns are my favorite team, but because when you watch that team last week, that defense, I was in awe of what they did to my dude, Justin Fields. I told my dad that it was very hard to watch that game last week, or it was going to be, because of Justin Fields. I think he's going to have a good college NFL career. We'll get to that in a second. And it was so hard to root against him, but I knew, like, I'm a Browns fan. We got to root against him. But that Browns defense was good and is good. I have not seen a Browns defense play like that probably in a very long time, if ever. 9 sacks. I mean, Myles Garrett is just an animal. Like, the dude is just unblockable. When he wants to be, he's unblockable. Then you have Clowney on the other side. You have linebackers coming out of nowhere. You have, Kamara, who's the rookie. Okay, as I like to call him. He's coming out of nowhere. I mean, they were making plays left and right and showing that, yes, this Browns defense is different than last year. This Browns defense can stop people. It makes me mad because it shows that they could have done something against Kansas City Chiefs earlier this year, and they could be 3-0 right now. The Chiefs could be 0-3 right now. It's interesting. But that team was just really good. I said this quote I heard this quote from one of my friends. He said, they made Justin Fields look like a kid at a pickup football game at Thanksgiving. The one kid that's like your cousin, but he's like the smallest kid, and all the dads and uncles and brothers and cousins just, throw him around like a rag doll. And I was like, you know what? That's a really good point. And honestly, very true. Justin Fields had 1 net yard. He had like 59 passing yards, but 1 net. They held him to like 60 yards total. I mean, the Bears, like, this is where I want to talk about the Bears, mainly because I look out for Justin Fields. I want him to have a good career. Fire Naj. Americans call it Nagy, but it's a Hungarian name. I think that's how you pronounce it. But something like that. Fire him. And I agree with what a lot of people on ESPN were saying and NFL Network. Like, this was either on purpose or you're just stupid. Like, you blocking 5 dudes against a 5-man rush, a 4-man rush, a 6-man rush. Like, you weren't even keeping a running back, and you're just asking Justin Fields to say, hey, good luck. And it just made me mad. I could spend a whole episode on that. But yeah, the Browns defense is really good. They made the Bears look terrible. I think the offense still frustrates me a little bit just because Mayfield, he's gotten going. Like, he's throwing the ball pretty well. But just the touchdown, obviously the touchdowns aren't there just because of the fact they have 2 good running backs. Kareem Hunt looked like Kareem Hunt of old. Chubb was Chubb. The offensive line was good. I mean, I shouldn't say it was good. They gave up a lot of sacks. That's what does worry me a little bit. But I think they'll get it figured out for the weeks to come. But from the review, we're going to talk about Browns versus Vikings this week, another NFC North team we face. I'm interested to see how this game goes. I really am. Mainly because I don't want the Browns, like, this is like, feels like the moment when the Browns would lose. They go to 500 and they go on this weird streak. My gut tells me they're going to win, and I'll tell you my score, but it just seems like one of those trip up games, one of those games that could really be frustrating for me as a Browns fan, and all that. So, keys to victory. I have 4 of them. It's a little weird that I only have 4, but I only have 4. One of those things is keeping the defense going. If this defense plays like this, I said this to somebody this week at work. If the Browns defense stays this way, they will, have the best defense in the NFL, hands down, and they could go really deep in the playoffs. The thing everyone just said, oh, defense wins champions. It does. If you have a good defense, you could score 15 points a game. As long as you have a good defense, you stop the teams. I think this defense is going to be really good. I think they are good. It's really just to see where they go from here. And my second key to winning, key to victory, is getting Chubb the ball a little bit more. And the reason I say this, I'm not against Hunt. Hunt is amazing, the dual threat that he is, in the sense that he's basically a receiver that plays running back. He's more of an elusive, I think. A little more elusive. I mean, they're both kind of power backs, but I just think Hunt has that little extra motor. I mean, that's no offense to Chubb, but I think you need to start with Chubb more, and then move your way into Hunt. I think setting the tone with Chubb and then switching. I like when they switch, but I felt last game they did a little bit too much of one back for like multiple series. I like the switching, but I think starting with Chubb for a couple series and then start doing it would be a great way to, I think, keep teams kind of on their toes. I think another thing I didn't mention earlier is I think Odell being back, I think with Landry out, Odell's going to get a good shot of getting some playing time, and he has 5 catches. Like, he had a good game. I think you're going to see more of him. I think when Landry comes back, this offense could even be better. It's such a hard offense to guard. I think Mayfield's just loving it. He's sitting back there going, I like this team. But like I said, keep the run consistent. Like I just said, I think starting with the run, don't make Mayfield throw the ball too much. I think setting him up with play action is what he needs, because I think that's where he's the best, when he can roll out, when he can kind of do that kind of stuff. I think the big thing is Stefanski just needs to have good game plans. He can't overthrow it. He can't overrun it. As long as that stays consistent, I think this week especially, because I think the Vikings is going to be one of those surprise teams that's going to have a decent defense, I think, and a pretty good offense. They do have some weapons. I'm interested to see how this game goes. But yeah, I think it's going to be a heck of a game. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. I really do. I'm always excited to watch the Browns, but I think it's going to be an extra really good game. And my prediction is 35-14 Browns. I think it's going to be just like the High State game. I think it's going to be close early on, but I think that Browns run game is just going to wear down the Vikings defense. And I think you're going to see a Browns victory in week number 4. Yes, 4. Week number 4, I think they're going to go 3-1 heading into the next game, which I can't even remember who it's against. But I'm excited. I think it's going to be a great game. My game of the week is Patriots versus the Buccaneers. I mean, how could I not choose it? It's Tom Brady going back to Foxborough. I'm interested to see. Supposedly there's like this book that's coming out that talks about Belichick and all of that. I kind of want to read it just to hear all the craziness that went on and strictness and all that. But I think, the Buccaneers are going to win. I don't think it's going to be close. Mac Jones is not, I don't think, ready. But Tom Brady's going to be Tom Brady, the GOAT. I hate to say that, but he is. So I think Buccaneers, Patriots. Also, by the way, if you do get a chance, go on ESPN on Monday night and watch the Manning brothers. I'm just putting this out there. So if you get a chance, watch them. It's hilarious. Having those two, like the comedians they are, it's so funny to me. I don't know why. It just is. But yeah, I have the Browns. The Browns are going to win. I think they're going to win pretty easily. And I think the Buccaneers will beat the Patriots. In my game of the week for this week, I'm interested to hear your thoughts. What is your game of the week? What do you think about Tom Brady and the Buccaneers this year? What do you think about the Browns? Are they going to have the good defense, like I say, or is the defense just a one-time show? I'm really interested to hear your thoughts. Leave them below. And that will be a wrap for the NFL talk. But we're not done yet. We're going to talk a little bit about the NBA, not a lot. We're just going to briefly overview that, and then we will finish the show up. So we're going to talk about the NBA right now. I don't know why I was acting like there was going to be this pan away. No, I'm just going to talk about the NBA. So there's not much going on, obviously, but the media day happened. There's a lot of talk about the vaccines and how that's going to affect gameplay this year, which is players getting paid and stuff. Very interesting. That's just besides the point. But yeah, the NBA is going to be happening. I'll be giving my predictions next week on the show. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a great show next week, as it always is every week. So if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, subscribe to it so you can watch them. Or if you just want to listen, you can listen to them, which I haven't got all those uploaded yet. So I probably should. But once again, I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, because it really means a lot. I do this because I enjoy it. I love talking about sports. I hope you enjoy listening to it. Maybe not. Maybe do, maybe don't. But those are my thoughts. Those are my opinions. Again, leave your comment. Disagree with me. Totally fine. We could debate about it sometime. But once again, if you've loved watching this or loved listening to this, go ahead and make sure you have it on your favorite podcasting app. And if you love watching this and listening to this, go ahead and click that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. And that'll allow you to see every video that I put out, all my old videos, all my old podcasts, all that stuff. You can go over there and check it all out. It really means a lot to me. Once again, I want to remind you of this, that it is a great time to watch some sports. I never say that, but I'm going to say it this time. It's a great time. It's a great day to have a great day. I don't know why this is such an awkward ending, Ben, but I hope you guys have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.